So Mustafa will walk us through these two processes today and will give us some useful tips on how to develop excellent negotiation and sales skills, which hopefully we all will be able to use in different areas of our lives. So Mustafa, let's begin.
Perfect. Thank you, Valeria, for the introduction, and thank you very much, guys, for joining. And yes, please. Yes, can you hear me? Valeria, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Good. So thank you very much, guys, for joining, and thank you, Valeria, for the introduction. And I want to also say a big thank you to the University of ESEI because they made these courses open for anyone. So I think it's a nice gesture for people to join, especially in these times where we have maybe a little bit more time at home, that we use it maybe wisely. I really hope you will have some takeaways. So the word wise then makes a sense. So we're going to talk about sales and negotiation. And the topic is, the agenda is what is sales? And then we're going to cover the topic of negotiation. And I'm going to share a framework with you, how you can negotiate with success. You know, it's basically a process you can follow, which is relevant to consider if you really want to take the maximum out of your negotiation. And if the times allow at the end, so we have 90 minutes, I can definitely also address any questions you may have related to this topic, but also any other career question you may have in mind, okay? And by the way, it's going to be a very interactive session, so I really would love that you unmute yourself later on when I ask questions, so we engage and exchange also your input, okay? Little intro about myself. My name is Mustafa Toga, and I'm a business and career coach. Over the last 12 years, I used to work for 2 major IT companies, and as a sales director, so sales and negotiation was our daily job, let's say like that. And but I was especially focused on hiring top talents for the company. And based on this experience, I actually interviewed more than 500 candidates, mainly young professionals, and hired more than 150 young professionals to start their career at our department in Barcelona. And based on this experience, I actually also wrote a book called The Jump, where I am on the one hand preparing the students, graduate and young professional for the job interview, like all the typical questions or things you may have in mind. But I'm also touching back on the topic work and life balance and what you can do in the job to be like successful. Okay, so that's basically a bit like background information. And now really let's jump on the first topic of today, which is sales. So to you guys in the room, if you would like to define sales, how would you define sales? What is for you sales? So please unmute yourself and contribute your thoughts. What do you think is sales? Or what do you need to, how would you define sales?
I will, hi Mustafa, I will define sales as first a two-way thing. As a company or as a business person, you're giving out your product in exchange for money. And then in that exchange, there's value. And then the customer, gives money in return.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of an exchange of one product against money, or could be also product against products. Okay, perfect. Any other input, guys? What do you think? How would you define sales? So I have also the name list here. So make my life easy so I don't need to pick your name. But so guys, I mean, you'll be in a safe environment, you can share your thoughts.
Yeah, I didn't understand what Oluwatosin said because it started to rain and I had to take things inside. But yeah, for me, sales would be more actually, yeah, selling your product or convincing someone that it's worthy, and also get the most out of it. So yeah, not necessarily that you are asking for the highest price, but making or convince someone that it's worth yeah, paying for.
Okay, perfect, very good. Thank you very much, Mikey, for this definition and for your inputs. So basically, if we look at sales, what is sales? I would describe that as it's kind of a really a process chain, basically. You know, so it's really start with a prospecting stage, qualification stage, defining stage. Then you come to solution, validation, negotiation, and then that you close the sales. And it's really all about a step-by-step process, you know. So you can, of course, directly jump to the price topic, meaning negotiation, but probably you will miss a lot of crucial information to really make the sales, because you then don't know why they actually need your product or why they actually need your services. Therefore, it's really important that you take sales step by step and don't jump from the beginning directly to negotiation or closing. Why? Again, you would miss relevant information, or let's say arguments, why they actually need your product. And then actually, if you have this type of information, you have way more power of negotiation and real arguments that you say, okay, but if you don't buy this, then this and this, based on your information or based on your saying, would happen. Okay, so therefore it's like really important that you understand that sales is really a step-by-step process and really follows this chain here. Okay, and today what we're going to do, especially we're going to talk the first 2-3 steps, the prospection, qualification, and defining stage, and then of course we're going to talk a lot about negotiation. Okay, the solution validating is more when you actually present your product. Okay, and in sales, guys, it's very, very important that you keep that in mind. If you really want to be a very good salesperson, it's not about your product you are selling. It's not about that. It's all about the customer's needs. Okay, and therefore it's really important that we have at the beginning a qualification. And what I mean by qualification, we're going to see in a bit. But it's not, again, you are going and saying, hey, I have this product. This is the best product on market. You should buy it. That's not sales. Okay? It's really value creation. And for that, it's really important that you identify the right audience and then qualify them and see if there is a potential need which your product actually create a value. And then you come to a negotiation phase and then ideally close the deal. Okay, so let's look at this prospecting stage. If you look at prospecting, what means prospecting is basically, prospecting is the first step in the sales process, which consists of identifying potential customers, aka prospects. The goal of prospecting is to develop a database of likely customers and then systematically communicate with them in the hope of converting them to from potential customer to current customer. So basically, you need to look at your product. Let's say you have a software solution for the financial people. Okay, so you cannot sell this to everyone. Why? Because a grandma or a young professional who's a student doesn't have the need. So therefore, you need to really know who is your target audience. And based on that, actually do like filters until you really know your target audience, and based on that, do your prospection. And prospection basically means that you like Inspector Gadget and really looking into the details, and then in Google or other databases where you can find information of the potential customer and client. So you have like, you think, okay, my product probably gonna be a good value to this organization or to this company or to this person. Why? Because it actually fits potentially his or her needs. So you are doing a list of potential customers. That's the early stage of prospection. And by the way, because we are having this sales and negotiation not only from a business as a business workshop, because I want to keep also every time the career workshop in our mind, prospecting is actually also key for your job search. So that you actually also look for companies who might be interesting to you. Not only just the job listing you find on LinkedIn or other web pages like Indeed or Stepstone or Monster.com, but did you also understand, okay, I really like numbers. I really like, I'm really interested in the financial industry or in the bank industry, so that you really look also what type of companies are out there you potentially could work. You know, of course, you're going to find on LinkedIn the big names because they are actively positioning their jobs on LinkedIn, etc. But there are many other companies. Maybe they don't have a job post on LinkedIn, but you would miss them. So therefore, also in your job search, once you really know which sector, which industry you want to work, and maybe which role, you need to prospect. I mean, when I say you don't need it, but if you really want to increase your chances to land in that industry, then prospecting can help you a lot. Okay? Does it make sense so far?
Yes.
Perfect. So again, prospection is like really the first step, that you know, okay, I have this product and it can bring to this audience a great value. And based on that, you do your list. Okay? And now let's come to the second stage, the qualification stage. I think it's one of the most important stages, in my opinion, in the sales process. So in the qualification stage, now in the qualification stage, we are talking about the stage where you identified your prospect. Now we are doing your first approach. Okay? And there are some psychological approaches you can use in order to really connect with the person, because very likely you are talking to a stranger because you never talked to them before, okay, because they weren't your client before. So you're talking to a stranger, they don't know you, but you want to really come and then position a product which you would like to sell. So they automatically would a bit like say, okay, who are you? Okay. Therefore, I think at the beginning it's very important that you use some psychological approach, first of all, to emotionally connect with the person before you actually bring your product in the game. So there is something called bonding, which is like using a psychological approach to easily connect and build relationship with anyone. Okay, so I think it's also important that you understand in communication, there are 3 elements actually. Anyone knows these 3 elements? Any idea of the elements of communication? So if we talk, what are we using actually? If we are communicating, what are we using?
Like, are you talking like about the tone and the body language, maybe? Then help me, I don't know.
And what are you using?
The voice.
The voice.
Voice, absolutely. But in your voice, what are you using? You are using words, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So these are really the 3 elements. So
okay,
it's words,
okay.
tone of voice, and then the body language. And Dr. Mehrabian did a study, and usually people think the words are the most important, but in some studies, especially when it goes around emotional topics, then the body language actually is one of the key element of the communication. And then of course the tone of voice, and then the words you are using. Usually when I did a survey asking students, what do you think is the most important element of these 3, without showing the percentage, they were thinking that words are the most important. But you see in this study, especially when you talk about more emotional things, it's more actually the body language and then the tone of voice. So based on this, now we are talking again. You did your list of the prospects. Now we are doing the first approach. And I told you guys, it's important that you emotionally connect to them. How we can do that is also, before we jump there, I think it's important that we all know that that the first impression counts, right? So basically, if you're really approaching someone, especially a stranger over the phone, and then you have like really 10, 15 seconds, because the people will make a decision in 15, 20 seconds if they actually like you and if they actually want to continue this call. I give you other example, guys. Usually, I get once a month a call from Movistar or the Vodafone or another mobile phone distributor, you know. So they want to sell me a product. Does anyone remember this type of calls, or does anyone get also this type of calls?
Yes.
Okay, can you a little bit describe how usually these calls are?
Yeah, so those guys are really like energetic. They're like, hey, hi, how are you? How the day is going? So they kind of like try to catch your attention, I guess.
Absolutely. So they are touching your, trying to catch your attention, but also I feel like they have like, they don't have much time, you know, and they bombard you usually like with a lot of words at the beginning, like ba 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 ba, and then you like, wow, okay, what's going on here, you know? So, and I know then within a couple of seconds already, okay, what type of call this is, and I know already, my mind makes already the decision. Okay, they want to sell me something. I'm not going to continue to talk with them. I say politely, I am not interested. Then I hang up. You know, so therefore, like, you really need to understand, especially at the first 10, 15, 20 seconds, is like where the person you are calling or where the person you are talking to will make a decision. Is this person interesting to me, and can I trust this person?
But can I ask you something? Why is it then still that, for example, those companies still make use of these tactics?
Yeah, because of the fact that there are still people probably interested in that. It's basically also a numbers game, you know. So it's like probably they call 100 people and 1, 2 actually picking up and then saying, okay, yes, I'm interested. But again, we are talking about effectively doing sales. So maybe it's not, again, it's a numbers game where maybe your ratio is not 1 to 10, 100 to 1, 2, but 100 to maybe 10, 12, 15. You know, as much you can increase this ratio with these types of background and psychological approaches, as much efficient you're gonna work, you know. That's basically the case. And then of course, many companies also outsource these services. Either to, I mean, in the case of Spain is mainly Latin America, you know. And in fact, I know also that some companies seriously outsourcing it to prisoners, this type of calls, you know, where it comes really just to catching the interest and then trying to sell either an upgrade or a product.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So also it's important that you understand really that we all know that the importance of the first impression. I think you guys all know that. And people tend to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And usually people like themselves. So with this information, I think, now coming again to this bonding, what can we actually do? Because if you're on the phone, you don't have much things to copy, you know. And basically how to bond is really that you try to copy or mirror the tone of voice, you know. Sonia mentioned they are usually high energetic, which is good, but it is good if your counterpart, if the person you are talking to is actually also high energetic, then you should be high energetic as well. Because if the person you're talking to it's actually very quiet and very slow, then you need to adjust your tone of voice to that, because otherwise it doesn't match. You know what I mean? So I just give you an example. If you're like coming out of the gym and walking home, probably a bit tired, and have in your mind maybe watch a Netflix series or just cook and sleep or read a book, whatever, you probably your body is already kind of in that mood, and then you are like a little bit more tired, etc. If you meet a friend who is like about to go out, full of energy, and approach, hey, let's go out, etc., you will automatically say no, because it doesn't, your mood doesn't match. And this is the same with the mirroring the tone of voice. So if your counterpart is really talking full of energy, you need to be full of energy. Because if you are full of energy, you don't want to talk to someone who's taking your energy down. But this goes also to the other part. If you are like, if your counterpart is like very slow, you need to adapt that to that as well. Okay. And then of course, the rate of speech, how fast this person is talking or how slow this person is talking, that you adapt to that. And then of course, that you listen and listen and listen, and really also try to rephrase some of the sayings what the person is saying. With that, you don't only demonstrate that you're actually actively listening, but also using his or her words, and then again, help them to demonstrate that you actually understand, acknowledge, and actually also using similar words. And then we saw that people like themselves. Okay, so this is an approach you can do, especially at the first 10-15 seconds can be really relevant, that the person says, okay, it seems to be an interesting call, so let's give him another 2-3 minutes and see what he or she gonna offer or propose. Okay, so once you did that, I think the crucial thing, once you establish this, once you actually take this first step of this 10-15 seconds, now you're going to have a little bit more time, and then you can then actually go and a little bit actually explain why you are calling. And then here is really important that you identify the need of your of the client. Okay, so basically qualification is, a prospect is about identifying pain, and need analysis uncovers the graphic details about the pain. So basically you're really talking more about the current situation of your customer, rather than going there and then saying, hey, I have this product, it's gonna help you fix all your financial problems. Rather going that you mention your product, you probably want to ask a little bit like, hey, when it comes to your financial calculation, do you using actually tools? Or how much time do you need actually to do your calculations? You know, you want to understand more his or her situation rather than directly presenting your product. Again, as much you know their situation, and as much you identify potential issues or problems, or we call it like pain, as much likely you are to make a sales. Because basically, if there is not a pain or need, you cannot sell a product. You know, like, I mean, you don't go to the dentist if you don't have a pain. You need to think like that. You know, and you would directly go to the dentist if you feel pain. This is the same thing. You're not gonna do just a purchase just like that, unless you are very rich and throwing out money. Okay. So why is this pain step also so important? You need to also understand that people make buying decisions emotionally and justify them intellectually. Studies show that 80% of people are making decisions based on emotion. So therefore, it's really crucial that that you understand the current challenges, needs, but also you need to make your counterpart emotionally involved in that. Okay, so that they really live this pain, that they really remember this pain, and based on that, they won't actually go away from this pain. How you can do that actually is really asking the right question. You know, I mentioned a couple of questions at the beginning. You ask more open-ended question. You know, tell me more about that. You are really touching the surface, and then can you give me a bit more specific? Give me an example, and then you are getting into the, let's say, into the meat, more deeper into it. You know, and then getting a little bit like emotionally, let them involved. What have you tried to do about it? And then how much do you think it has cost you? How do you feel about that? Have you tried to give up, etc.? You know, so you're trying to talk about the assist situation, the negative consequences, and ideally, once they try to give it up or they are looking for alternatives, that you understand also, okay, this is what we want to actually get out of it as a solution. Okay, guys, so far so good. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. And what do we need to know now? So I think you should definitely keep this cold band. You know, that was for us in sales very important. If one of the reps was saying, hey, I have an opportunity with a prospect, we were directly asking these 2-3 questions, you know. Okay, do you know the budget? Do you know the authority, meaning who's the decision maker? Do you know the need? Again, the pain, why they actually need it, and timing, by when do they need it? So this, let's say, 4 areas are really crucial that you can really identify. Actually, this client is really relevant right now, and they are ready to make a purchase because they have the budget, and you are talking to the right person because he or she is a decision maker. If you have this checked and cross marked, then you very likely gonna make a sales. Okay, but usually some salespeople are also afraid to ask the budget question. Hey, do we have the money to really make this sales actually? You know, because they're afraid a little bit, they fear this question, but it's crucial when is the right time that you also ask about that. And guys, again, I want to link this now to the career. When you are talking about job interview, and when you are you in a job interview, I think it's also important that you ask questions about that. A little bit like, not about the budget because the position is open, but that you understand who is actually the decision maker of this whole process, and why they actually need you. Is it because they newly opened up a position because they want to expand now in Russia and Ukraine as well? Or is it because that the person who was working just got fired or left the company, so they need a replacement for that current position? Or is it because the person who was doing job get promoted? So this information are really relevant for you as well. So then you know what type of role it is. Because in the first scenario, if it's like a new thing, it's actually good for you because it wasn't there, but now you can make actually a great impression because you can now create something there. But the downside of that is probably they don't have some historical data to give you the right KPIs. If it's the second scenario that somebody left the company, there is definitely historical data, but the downside is maybe there is no one there to help you out because the person left. So then it's important that you ask, are there other people doing a similar job? So your potential team members and of course mentors, so you can learn from them. And if it's the case where the person actually got promoted, it's good for you because you're going to have like a transition phase, because the person not going to leave all the job and then do something completely different, but they usually do a transition phase where you get to know the work from the person who is going to do something different. And I think also timing is a very big topic in job interviews. Why? Because most of the cases, people don't ask what is the next step, and people then wonder, hey, I applied 2, 3, 4 weeks now gone and I didn't hear anything. So it's important that you ask, hey, what is the next step, and by when you actually want to hire the candidate, etc. And then with that, if you know more about that, you have a better feeling how urgent they are looking for someone. And then if you ask also like, hey, what is the next step? If they tell you, hey, by next Monday, we actually gonna call you, then you know by next Monday, if they don't call you, you have an excuse to call them. And then you can call them, pick up the phone and they say, hey, you mentioned last time that you wanna give me a heads up on Monday. I was wondering where the status is. So you get like direct the info what's going on there. Okay? Good. So that's basically the sales part, especially the first 2, 3 steps of sales. So basically prospecting and qualification. Do you guys have any questions so far?
No, it's fine.
Okay, perfect. No. Yeah? Is there a question?
No.
Okay, perfect. Now let's look at negotiation, which is actually the sixth step of the sales process. You know, and I think negotiation could be also quite interesting for you, not only in your profession, not only in your job interview, but also in your private life. You know, let's look what is actually negotiation. Negotiation is any communication between 2 or more persons with an intention to influence or to pursue. That's actually the definition of negotiation. So let's look at where you find actually negotiation. Basically in everyday life, with your family and friends, even with your partner in the evening, which movie you want to watch. Okay, you find it of course in business, in politics, in academia, in law. You can even find it with little babies. Okay, and they have the power of crying, which is a very powerful negotiation tool. And you just want to make them calm, and you give them whatever they want, you know. But of course, if you let them do it very often, then you really lose negotiation power. If you don't really educate that problem, the baby will think, okay, if I cry, I get what I want. Okay. What is the problem with negotiation? Negotiation basically often fail. Deals are not made. And in some cases, relationships are damaged, and money and time are wasted. Okay, because if you have a bad experience, you say, okay, with this guy, I will never again work again. Okay, and if you look at the possible causes for these problems, one of the things is the zero-sum code. That many people view negotiations primarily as like, if I lose something or if I give up something, the other one wins. Or if the other one gets what he or she wants, that I lose. That is the mindset of the majority of the people, and therefore we don't get to a negotiation point. And also, of course, the lack of information and the lack of feedback. So some people are unaware of the way how they're actually talking, how they're actually behaving, which maybe have like a negative influence on the other person, who she or he thinks, okay, I don't trust this person. And so there is no negotiation. And there are also in certain areas, there are certain norms which are limiting the negotiation power. Okay. And of course, you can easily get trapped also in the 3 E's: ego, emotion, and escalation, where you don't want to really go further with the negotiation. Okay. So I mentioned this traditional zero-sum bargaining, and my background is Turkish, and this is a picture how when I was 5, 6 years old, my father was taking me to this animal, let's say, markets, where they were trading with animals, you know, like 35 years ago, when we were in Turkey for vacation. And I really saw that what they basically are doing is they are shaking hands until they find an agreement. And trust me, this can go like for 40-45 minutes. Quick question, anyone knows this from his or her cultural background? A similar scenario? Out of curiosity.
Not really.
Not really. Okay, maybe lucky you. But I mean, it really opened my eyes and I learned a lot when I saw this, you know. So my father was going there as he was a shepherd, and he was very interested in sheep actually as well. So I find this picture, but it basically shows this traditional negotiation, you know, especially if you go to Middle East and maybe even North Africa, this type of regions. And then you probably also know from the Turkish bazaar or Arabic bazaar, if you like something, they make a really extreme price. The only argument and tool you have is that you go with the extreme low position. So literally I saw negotiation with my father that the opponent was asking 200 liras or dollars, for example. And my father was offering actually a ridiculous $10. But this is the way how they actually negotiate. And people actually need that. Yeah, okay. So I got also another verification that this happens in my country. Okay. So basically, they make an extreme high position, and you go with a very extreme position down. Okay. And then they tell you, okay, I ask you 200, but my final offer is 180. Then you say, okay, I can give you 20. And then you say, okay, my last offer is 150. And then you say, my offer is 50. And then it goes like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until they either find the middle compromise way. Okay. But of course, there is the threat to walk away. Okay. And this is usually the traditional negotiation. But today, what we would like to discuss is like a framework. And we need to also think about 3 domains which are actually playing a big role in negotiation. This is on the first hand, the process that you need to identify, meaning how we're going to negotiate, that this is like really set. Then the relationship, how we are managing differences, and the substance. So the benefits and what actually are we negotiating about. Okay. So if you look at this framework, there are 7 elements: alternatives, interest, option, legitimacy, relationship, communication, and commitment. So now let's look a little bit in detail in all these 7 elements, starting with alternatives. So what is alternatives? The definition is the walk away possibility each party has if no agreement is reached. So I think it's very important that you understand, hey, what type of alternatives I actually have. Because as much you know, as much you do your homework, as much you power have, as much you can also say, okay, listen, actually, if I continue this with this person, I'm losing because my alternative is actually a bit cheaper, or my alternative is actually a bit better, etc. So it's very important that you know before you go to a negotiation your alternatives. So a couple of tips: prepare a list of things alternative if no agreement could be reached, so you can compare. Then choose the best option of these alternatives. This is also called as BATNA. So the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Okay. Keep in mind this BATNA and try to improve when negotiation. So basically you have certain alternatives, and one of the alternatives is the best among them. And you should compare the negotiation when you negotiate the subject to your BATNA. Then you really know if you are making actually a good deal or not. Okay. And it's important also that you here also qualify the other person and understand what is the button of their negotiation, because as much you know about the other person, as much you can play it in the negotiation. Okay. And this will be the source of your power. Now let's come to the second point. Is the second element is interest. The definition of interest is the need, concern, goals, desire, and fears that motivates us to negotiate. Here a tip, we need to distinguish interest from position. You know, a position what parties say they want, and interest is the why. And it's always important that you understand the why. If you know the why, you know the source. And usually if you talk to someone, it takes 2-3 attempts that you really understand the underlying reason why they say something. They say something, but they actually don't mean that. So you need to ask a couple of times to really get to this why. Okay, I give you an example. I want an apartment at the 5th floor. Imagine you are a landlord. You have an apartment. You want to rent your apartment. You are showing the your apartment to someone who is interested. And this person says, I want an apartment at the 5th floor. Okay, that's a position. Now you can tell, okay, I have only in the 2nd floor an apartment. Then maybe there is not a match and both are walking away. But you can ask, hey, why do you actually want an apartment at the 5th floor? And then you can find out maybe, hey, I usually sleep not so good because of the noise on the streets. That's why I prefer an upper floor, or in the 5th floor, upper floor, so it's not so noisy. Then you actually understand the why. It's because of the noise. It's not because the 5th floor. But then if your house actually on the 2nd floor has like really good isolation and good windows, you can say, listen, we have a really good isolation here, and the doors are also quite good. If you want, you can have one night you can sleep here and then see how noisy and not noisy actually it is. And then you can make your decision. You know, so that's why the why is really important, in order that you have really an understanding what is actually important for the other person. Make sense, guys? So far, so good?
Yeah.
Perfect. So this third element is options. The definition of options are all of the possibilities on which the parties might agree. Okay? So I think it's important that if you go into a negotiation, I think it's very helpful if you go with a mindset of a mindset with brainstorming, that you have a brainstorming mindset. You know, of course, it's also important that the component has this a mindset, because if you really brainstorm, then you maybe even create values and options which you even didn't think before. But for that, you need to have an open mind. For that, you need to have a brainstorming mind. But of course, the opponent as well. Why is that important? If you look at this graphic, you see your position and their position. And in the middle is where it's like equally the satisfaction points actually dotting to their satisfaction point is dotting to your satisfaction point. But there is a bulk area you can see in dark, which is a potentially wasted value. What I mean by that, okay? So you are talking about a subject, let's say these glasses, okay? And this is like the glasses I want to sell you, and your satisfaction will be that you buy this, and my satisfaction that I get the money I want, for example, 100 euros, okay? But maybe there are other things which is important for you. Maybe you need like a cover for the glasses. For me, maybe it doesn't cost anything, okay? And then I say, okay, I give you the cover, but what I would like from you is that you give me a reference, because I just started my business, and then I need like customer testimonials, you know? And then you both agree. You not only sell it for 100 euros, you give away a cover, but you get like the testimonial or reference. You know, like this is like really important if you're negotiation, that you are really having an open mind, because you can be really surprised what other things maybe your component can give you as a value. And again, I'm pretty sure there are things which are not important for you, which you can easily do, but maybe is a great value for the opponent, and the vice versa as well. Any question, guys, so far? Good, then let's continue. I think it's also important that you have this chart in mind with these 5 levels of conflict, and that you really look at reaching a compromise or even to a collaboration. If you go to the collaboration area, then you really will come to this area of that you don't waste alternative and options. Okay, where you can create more and more values, and where values actually doesn't cost you much, but it's a great value for the other. Okay. And the 4th element is actually one of my favorites, is the legitimacy. What I mean by that is external standard of legitimacy against which to measure possible agreement. A very easy example is here. If you know that a 2-room flat in Gracia is usually $1,000, 1,000 euros, sorry, but the landlord is asking you 1,400 euros, you will feel like, okay, where does that come from? You know, so I mean, what do you mean 1,400? Based on what can you actually justify that? You will think that somebody really want to make business out of you, you know? So therefore, it's really important that you use objective criteria so no one feels actually taken. So that's why it's also very important that you do your research, that you, before you go to Gracia to rent an apartment, that you know more or less what does a similar apartment cost. Okay. And then I think very important is that you, if you ask for this $100, 100 euros, that you can actually justify it. So if you make up a price for your product, you need to justify it. Okay, if I put this 100 euro, then I can say, okay, let me show you why this is a fair number. And then I would probably look into the internet and demonstrate similar sunglasses in the similar conditions in the range of, let's say, 80 to 120 euros. Then I would say that's why I think the number of 100 is fair, and the opponent is not feeling like somebody's taking advantage out of me. Okay, but I think these examples also demonstrate quite well what I mean by that. So can you see the screen with these 2 monkeys?
Yes.
Perfect. This is a little video and I hope it's going to play well. Let's see.
Getting grape and you will see what happens. So she gives a rock to us, that's the task. And
sorry?
We give her a piece of cucumber and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us. And that's what she does. And she gets a grape. And she eats it. The other one sees that. She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber. She tests the rock now against the wall. She needs to give it to us. And she gets cucumber again.
You see what I mean? So, I mean, even in they did a study with monkeys. You can see, like, if you treat them unfair, you're gonna get this type of behavior where people really think, okay, don't feel comfortable and actually feel like, okay, somebody taking advantage out of. In this task, the one monkey was getting grapes and the other one getting like a cucumber. And in their definition, grapes are better. Probably it's because of the sweetness of that. Okay. Did anyone see this video before?
No.
Okay, I really hope this a little bit highlights again what I mean, that you need to have a fair number. Now, if you look at legitimacy, I think another important point is, I would like to, example, you see this number 29. So I want to have a quick question, and I would like that you answer in the chat bulk. So the question is, how old I am? Can you please type the answer in the chat? Okay. Good. Okay. In this example, I think, okay. So I did a mistake. So the mistake was that I mentioned you before with this picture that's 35 years ago that my father was taking me to this animal market. But what I wanted to actually demonstrate is following. You saw this number at 29, and there is something called an anchoring effect. And an anchoring effect is basically if you bring up a number to the table, people will orientate themselves around this number. So I did this experiment as well when I didn't mention that 35 years ago my father took me. I just showed this number, and usually people tend to say 28, 29, 30 because of the fact that this number, what you are seeing here, is like kind of an anchor in your brain. So basically what your brain is doing is it's saving this number, and you will compare all the other numbers against that number. Another example is if you go, for example, to MediaMarkt and you want to buy a new TV, what the salesperson usually would do is, if he knows about this effect, he would go directly to the most expensive TV and then demonstrate, hey, this TV is for 2,000 euro, okay, and has this feature and this feature. And then, are you interested? You probably say it's maybe too expensive. Then the second option, he would demonstrate another TV for maybe 1,000 euro. But your brain will automatically think, I'm actually saving 1,000 euro. No, but maybe your intention wasn't even to buy a TV for 1,000 euro. You know, so therefore it's really important that you know about this anchoring effect. And especially if you are negotiating, that this anchor effect can play against you. Okay, therefore it's really important that you ask, hey, where do you come up with this number? If somebody brings a number out of the blue to the table. And if they can justify it, then it's good, then it's legitimate. But if they cannot justify and start like, then you know, okay, maybe they want to trick you. Okay? Good. Then the fifth element is actually relationship. The definition of relationship is the connection between the parties in a negotiation, especially in their ability to manage differences well. Tip here, be unconditionally constructive on the relationship versus being nice. So really try to have an open mind and really try to listen to see maybe there are a couple of other options you even didn't think before. And then I think it's also important, especially this is maybe later in business when you have your job, if you need to also negotiate there, not only about your salary, but on projects, etc. Then maybe you are working with someone you actually don't like much. Then it's really important that you separate the problem you are talking or negotiation with the person with the person actually you are talking. You know, it's very hard, but it's important if you want to successfully negotiate that you separate these two things. And of course that you should speak for yourself and not for anyone else. I think this quote is really fitting here, that if you want to make a peace with your enemy, you want to work with your enemy, then it becomes your partner. So it's really that you are trying to establish a relationship rather than a one-off thing and you go. You know, therefore, relationship can play a very big importance also in negotiation, and then later that you really build a partnership even. Now the sixth element is communication. So the definition of communication is the exchange of thoughts, messages, or information by speech, writing, physical cues, or other actions. A tip here, I think it's important that you really tailor your words and tone to the needs of your intended audience. Okay, try to talk their language or give the message the way they would understand. Okay, in other words, put yourself in their shoes. I think we did this example in one of the last sessions, but quick question, how is ambulance written on the cars and why? Does anybody know?
Yeah, is it written like the way that the cars who are in the front can read it through the mirror? Like, I don't know the name.
Exactly. So I think this is a good example where the communication, it doesn't say, hey, I'm the ambulance, I'm the big guy, open the road. It's more, hey, who actually needs this, see this in front, the ambulance part? Is it the person in front of me, or is it actually the person in my back, or in the left or on the right? It's actually the person in front of me, but the person in front of you is looking through the mirror. So it's really, they are tailoring the word ambulance to the need of the person in front, because they are looking in the mirror to read that. Okay, so I think you get my point, what I mean, like you tailor your words depending on the needs of your audience. And the last part of the negotiation is commitment. The definition of commitment, agreement about what a party will or will not do. And I think it's important that you avoid committing too early, because again, it's important that you really hear out what the other person has to say. Maybe there are things you didn't even think about, then you would waste this opportunity, because you would directly say, okay, yeah, we can do this like that. Try to really be interested and not commit too early, and only commit when you really think it brings you and it moves the negotiation to the next step. So that's basically the 7 elements of negotiation. Let's say in short, if you really want to successfully negotiate, then we may reach a deal where it's better than the BATNA. Again, the BATNA is the alternative to the negotiated agreement. Okay, so what you are agreeing is better than the alternative you have. So it should meet your interest well, their acceptability and others tolerable enough to durable. So that it should really fit your interest, and it should be also accepted by your opponent, that there is not like a bad surprise at the end. Okay, and is the best of many options, and therefore again have an open mind and find the best option for the both of you. Is based on clear communication, and communication is that you really understand and that you really talk about everything up front, so there is no surprise on whatsoever later on. Clear everything out before you sign, before you make an agreement, so there is not a bad surprise at the end. Again, is legitimate, so it's actually based on external criteria and numbers, and where you think it's fair. Okay, and it should improve definitely the relationship, or at least does not damage the relationship, because it's important for later, and identifies commitments that are specific, firm, and implementable. So I think, especially in negotiation, one thing is key. If the communication and relationship is poor or bad, then you cannot really effectively negotiate. So it's really, again, coming back, if you can distinguish the person with the problem, and if you don't like the person, find a common ground, a respectful ground where you can communicate and where you can really discuss options. Just think about how, if you are really emotionally into it and don't like, so you cannot really communicate well with these people. Okay, so basically here's a little cheat sheet, and if you want to make a little picture out of it, go ahead. But here you can really see in an overview what is actually an interest and all the 7 elements, and what is the definition, and what are the measurements and of success, and a couple of advices. Okay, guys. So that's basically the negotiation part. And with that, I would kindly ask you guys if there is any question in the room. Was it clear?
Yeah, it was very, very clear. And actually, I have 2 questions.
Please.
You know, nowadays, a lot of sales happens virtually.
Yeah.
So the body language is not so much present. So we only have like the voice and the tone of voice and the words. And I don't know, do you have any suggestion how to work on this level, you know, with virtual and online sales and all the presentations that are related to you know, online sales?
Yeah, no, it's good point, you know, Diana, and I think you mentioned that because of the virtual, the body language maybe are not relevant, but I would disagree with that, you know, because we can do a little example. I don't know where you guys sitting right now, but if you have like a table in front of you, maybe you want to put your feet on the table and simulate that you are talking actually on the phone, you know, how relaxed you are, and maybe a little bit like also lazy, you know, if you are really like putting your legs up and you are like more casual, you know. But for example, if I have like very important calls, even though I don't see the person virtually, it's like not Zoom, just a call, I take, for example, important calls, stand up. So I'm standing up actually, you know, because I know when I stand up, and if I have this posture where I'm like looking like this, and my body is like straight, it helps me like automatically my voice change, my energy level change. You know what I mean? So that's, even though they don't see you, body language is actually playing a role. You know, so you can try that out, but trust me, your body language is definitely playing a role, even the people don't see you, and that you are really maybe sitting on a table or standing up, depending on what is the best for you. I mean, also, I know that some people really, even they do home office, they wear tie, because they feel then in their mindset, I am actually at work, versus someone maybe in shorts and in pajama. You know, so this type of thing can also play a role in your psychological and how you actually communicate. Does that convince you, Diana? I don't want to convince you actually, but I mean, you can definitely try that out.
Yeah, actually it makes sense, because you know, if I am thinking about my experience, whenever I have any sales related activity or conversation, I am at my table, you know, trying to be calm and having all the things that I need around me and be relaxed. So yeah, it makes sense that the body language, even if it's not so visible, but it still plays an important role. And I have another question for you. So, you know, sometimes working in sales can be very, how should I say, you know, pretty exhausting, because there is a lot of energy that you spend, and you know, maybe there are some targets, or maybe there are some clients who have difficult questions or situations, and how can you, you know, how can you keep it balanced? How can you, you know, be approachable but still not very tired after working in sales?
Yeah. So I think there are a couple of points I can share with you. First is really that you, because there's also this saying, don't take a no for an answer, you know, and then salespeople, especially the old school, they are trying to convince, you know. I think if you get a no, it's important that you don't take it personally. You know, there are also people, if they get a rejection, they take it personally. You know, it can take also a lot your energy down. And I think that's one of my suggestion would be that you don't take no's or rejection personally. You just make it like to the business, so that you think, okay, they just don't need it right now, maybe. Okay, and that you focus to another client, because then the cards, it's like distributed new. It's a new game, and you can see there's actually a game as well, sales. Okay, that's one thing. But for me, it was really important, but that doesn't only go for sales, for any job which is like a very, let's say, what you described, you know, very energetic, very consuming of your energy. For me, it was really important that we work usually from 9 to 6, but most of the customers also left actually the office at 5. So I didn't really do more than what was necessary at that day. Meaning if it was like 6, then I went actually home, you know, so because work never ends, you know, but for me it was important, okay, because sometimes they say, I want to write this email and then I finish, but then this email can get you like to 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. But then I was asking myself, okay, if I send this email now, who actually going to read it? Because the client is actually gone, you know. So then I was saying to myself, okay, what actually will change if I do it tomorrow morning, first thing, you know, so that you have this type of thought process as well, that of course everything is important, but does it really make sense that you write this email now at 7:30 p.m. where actually the customer is not even in the office, you know? And the most useful thing for me personally is 6, I was going home, 6:30 I was changing and had a couple of nuts, and I was doing sports. That helped me a lot, because sports give me this transition, meaning from work to now private, you know. Then I really, sometimes I review the day, sometimes if it's like a stressful day, I just through the sports digest it way better. And after the sports, I was usually doing 1 hour sports, and I was so exhausted, but I already switched off the work mood, and then I was more in the relaxed and easygoing and private mood, you know. So that was helping me a lot. And what sports for me is could be yoga for you. What yoga for you is could be painting for the other, could be music for the other one. But you need to know what helps you really, let's say, to switch the work button and come to the normal private phase. Make sense?
Yeah. Thank you for your answer, and yeah, for the whole presentation.
You're welcome. Any other question, guys? Any other inputs? Does anyone has a job interview currently going on?
That's pretty hard to have those days.
Job interviews to have these days?
Huh?
You said it's pretty hard to get a job interview these days?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we trying?
Most of your tips.
It's still hard, yeah, to get someone. Do you guys at least get in communication with the recruiters?
Yes, but they're telling me, in my case, that it's not the best moment. It's pretty hard for them to like handle everything the way it is now, and then I should come later.
Okay, but now that you are mainly in this prospecting stage yourself, you know, where you are really prospecting the potential customers, and I would really make some notes, you know, meaning, okay, I talked to this customer and the person, the recruiter, blah, 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 said this. And I think important would be, of course, probably they don't also know when is the best time, because nobody really knows how things shape up. But thank God I understood, even though I'm in Germany, that in Spain, after the 8th of June, we are getting out of this situation. But I don't know how much in the next phase we will come. But I mean, try to understand, hey, when do you think it makes sense maybe to rediscuss? You know, I understand maybe it's hard for them to say, okay, the corona will be over in 6 weeks and we're gonna hire in 7 weeks. But maybe that you have an excuse again to touch base. That's why I think it's important that you ask, hey, when it would make sense that we talk? Would it make sense maybe in 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Then you have this excuse to call back, actually, you know?
Yeah.
And not seeing like, oh, she's spamming, like, you know, it's like more kind of a conversation. You both understand each other because they have a need, but they cannot go further because of the current circumstances. And you have an interest and you really want to know a little bit as well, but you are also patient enough to wait. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Another input or question, guys? If there is no question, guys, then I would kindly only remind you, especially the ESEI students, that we had a call to action because we have a little contest with these 3 books. And I don't know if you already did your video, but if you do a little video on the learnings you did over the last workshops, the first 3 gonna win actually a copy of my book. So if you're interested, use that chance, not only because of the book, but I think, again, we discussed in the personal branding part, how much video content is relevant on LinkedIn and can help you to really establish your personal brand and distinguish yourself from other candidates. So take it as an opportunity. And if you do your video, please tag me or tag the ESEI Business School, so we are aware who are the first 3 are, in order that we can evaluate and give feedback about your video, but also consider it for the little contest. Okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Then I would say, if there is no other question, thank you very much. And this was the last series of the workshop. And but I want to make sure, guys, that that we stay in touch, because I really want to make sure as well, this is not like a one-off, but that we build like a little relationship here, where you can, guys, ask me your career question, which may be gonna pop up in 3 weeks or 3 months or in 9 months, you know. So let's stay connected, and let's see. We're gonna also talk with ESEI, with Carlotta, if and how we want to continue the collaboration, and there might be a couple of other workshops coming soon. Okay, I definitely thank you very much for your participation, and that you've been also participating this the 4 sessions. And I would kindly ask you and encourage you to try things out, guys, that you find your way, what works for you, and don't be afraid of failure, and don't be afraid that maybe you don't directly see a result, you know, because results usually take time. But the thing is, you need to do it, start early and use that time. Okay.
Yeah, Mustafa, I would like to thank you very much on behalf of ESEI team for this extremely, for me personally, inspiring and very informative session. I was not aware of any, well, some of the tactics I knew, but most of them I didn't know, and I can't wait to start using them actually.
Perfect.
Action to see how they work. And I would also like to give a very big thanks to all of the participants who attended this session today. I'd like to remind you that ESEI will donate €1 per participant to the Spanish Food Bank, and will provide food for people who are struggling in this difficult situation because of the coronavirus. And I very much hope that you all learned something new today, and that this information will help you all to achieve your professional or personal goals. And of course, we will keep you updated on all the future guest speaker sessions that we'll have at ESEI. And hopefully Mustafa will agree to deliver some of the different sessions in the future with us. And a very big thanks to all of you. I hope you enjoyed and have a very good weekend.
Yeah. Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you, Valeria.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. As always, we will share this session on YouTube. Okay, it will be on our channel in case you want to watch it after.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Perfect. Thanks to you. Thank you, Mustafa.
Thank you, Valeria.
Bye-bye.